a little bit of a tangent on pitching. Did you see what happened to Edwin Diaz last night?
Terrible.
I mean, a horrible injury and in a really weird circumstance.
Well, the players, after he struck out the side in the WBC game and won and qualified to move his team on to the next round, storming out of the dugout, and everybody's jumping up and down, and he jumped and he landed, and his knee buckled. He tore the patella tendon.
Wow.
And I thought he dislocated the kneecap. You couldn't really tell with so many bodies around him. All of a sudden, he was on the ground, and everybody separated and was shocked. But that's an 8 to 12-month rehab. So, I mean, think about the uniqueness of the Mets and that pitching staff, and they've lost a starter already, and now they've lost him for the entire season with this big payroll. And the Mets have got two 40-year-old starters at the front end of the rotation, but now they've lost two other guys who are part of this whole relief pitching equation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough loss for the Mets and it was Team Puerto Rico, right? So he was on, but when they were lifting him off the field, his right leg was just dangling, and that foot was almost like at a 60-degree angle. It was almost like his whole knee was disconnected. So feel bad for the guy, and it's just an unusual circumstance. And all the major league teams are just praying that none of their players get hurt, and then it happens in just the stupidest of cases.
Okay, here's the loaded question. We'll just go off on a tangent for a minute. I use the right turn signal here. Like the concept of the WBC, don't like the timing of it in spring training. Don't like that there's too many teams in the tournament. So my theory, if I were king, let's break up the baseball schedule. We get to the All-Star break. Let's make the All-Star break 10 days. Let's merge the WBC teams, and everybody gets to play. We'll put a pot of gold out there and really make it a huge fan event and a social event and a media event, which would allow you to fill the pot of gold with rights fees. But what you do is you have Team USA, then maybe you combine a team that might be Mexico, Dominican, Puerto Rico, and make that your Latin team. And then you combine Japan, Taiwan, and Korea. Just call them out a Pacific Rim team. And then maybe you have a global team with players make up a fourth team. Just have a 4-team tournament, play it the week of the All-Star game, then play the All-Star game. And all the stars would be there. And at that point, it's a really important event. I'm sorry. We don't need a team from Italy. We don't need a team from the Netherlands and some of these other outposts. And who are some of these guys that are pitching? And then you got the pitch limits, which complicates it all too. I saw Julio Urias, the Dodgers ace. He was brilliant first 4 innings. I mean, he was bringing it. 5th inning, he ran out of gas and he got blown up for Team Mexico. And he's pitching, he's amped and he's all out. And this is spring training he's doing this. I worry about that. If you're in midseason form and the rhythm of being a starting pitcher, you could do a 3 or 4 inning all-out start in the World Baseball Classic if you made it All-Star Week. November, it's a novel idea. You play it on Sunshine Cities, but players are so burned out, and you wouldn't get anybody from the World Series team probably in a World Baseball Classic in November. So if I were king, I wouldn't do it in the spring. I'd do it in the middle. I'd merge the teams together. And John Riley's, the baseball junkies, responses.
Well, first of all, I love the WBC. I think it's a great event. It's like the World Cup. It was interesting. They interviewed a number of the Dominican players and asked them, would you rather win the WBC or the World Series? And nearly every one of them said they would rather win the WBC because they take such pride in their nation.
And the flag.
And, especially if you're from like a little country like Dominican Republic that occupies half an island. So I love the idea of doing it in the middle of the year. It's kind of like how the English Premier League has tournaments that they take breaks for. But how about this, Hacksaw? How about, if you combine the teams, like a Latin team or a Pacific Rim team, then it takes away from that national pride that some of these guys love playing for. What if you took the All-Star week and got rid of the All-Star game completely?
No, because
and then hear me out, and then make it like a 2-week break and still have, 16, however many teams that are in this, 20 teams. And then when we get to the finals, you can still do the home run derby. You can do all that stuff, but just change this in a way to make this a legitimate world event. I think that would be great.
I think you're making those comments from left field. Don't destroy the All-Star game and all the festivities around the All-Star game. Baseball's done a really good job compared to the NFL Pro Bowl, the NBA three-point shooting contest, All-Star weekend, and the NHL shooting gallery. Baseball's All-Star game has a lot of history and integrity going back to the 1930s. So don't you dare screw with the All-Star game itself. But I think if you can compact the schedule, merge the teams, and really make it a mega event. Stay tuned for that. All right, a couple more topics.